So this pohutukawa plant here shows the impact of myrtle rust this season. You can see that it's got a lot of death of leaves. There's some shoot dieback as a result of the early summer infection, and the growth has been stunted, and at the moment there's a lot of new infection coming away again as a second epidemic on these lower leaves, heaps of yellow spores on there. So that's a plant which has obviously got a lot of natural susceptibility, probably worst at the younger sort of growth stages. We expect that as it grows older it'll become less susceptible, but at the moment it's got very severe effects.
So
now,
is it evident, Rob, that the disease you're finding much more on the younger plants as they develop versus the older plants with more established growth?
It seems to be the case for pohutukawa, and certainly most of the records of myrtle rust on pohutukawa have been in the nursery situation where the young plants being propagated. And we really don't see myrtle rust on the adult trees around the Auckland region, so that's an interesting thing which we don't understand why that is yet, but it's a hopeful thing. And so over here is another pohutukawa, and this one actually, you can see the pink markings on the ground. This has actually been fungicide treated to protect it against myrtle rust, and you can see that this is just covered with vigorous growth. It's growing really well. It's got the juvenile leaf form here with the shiny underneath of the leaves and the smooth stem, and it's transitioning here to the adult leaf form with the hairy stems and the hairy undersides of the leaves. We find incidentally that on a non-fungicide plant both of these growth types are equally susceptible at this stage, but this plant is growing really well, and that's as a result of fungicide protection, which we've been doing about at monthly intervals. What
sort of fungicide would you be using, Rob?
So for this one we're using fungicides, a rotation of fungicides. There's some of the ones which were recommended by MPI for use against myrtle rust, and they're all modern synthetic fungicides which are very highly active. Some of them are systemic, which means that they can actually get into the plant and control existing infection.
So could this be a preventative treatment for those of our viewers that are working with trees and having questions from clients about how they may protect their particular myrtle trees?
Yes, certainly fungicides can be used in the right context, and of course it's sort of limited as to where you can't really go spraying fungicides in a lot of, certainly not in the natural estate, but also in some public areas that may not be appropriate. In nurseries, certainly great possibilities there, and in home gardens too, with the right sort of awareness of how to manage fungicides. It's definitely an option for managing myrtle rust.
So those sorts of products, you would have to be a qualified spray applicator and have knowledge of what you're using. I think that's an important fact, Rob.
Yes, absolutely. A grow safe certificate is required for commercial use of fungicides.
And those particular fungicides, is there a list of them that's available for people?
Yes, on the MPI website there's a list of appropriate fungicides. I'll just make another comment there that on the list there are some things like copper, which will control myrtle rust to some extent, and also some of the other broad spectrum older fungicides, some of the synthetic fungicides. And although they will give some myrtle rust control, they are much less effective than the more modern synthetic fungicides.
And you were saying that as part of this program you're using a rotation of products?
And that's for resistance management. So that's one of the downsides of the modern synthetic fungicides, is that if they're used repeatedly, the same one again and again and again, there's a chance that resistance will develop to them. So we do a rotation to try and reduce that resistance risk.